1st, 2024 City of Miami Sunshine Meeting is being called to order at 11:43 a.m. The City Commissioners in attendance at today's Sunshine Meeting are Commissioner Gabella, Commissioner Pardo, and Commissioner Reyes. The purpose of today's Sunshine Meeting is to discuss 1, flooding throughout the City of Miami, and 2, a general discussion about city parks. Commissioner Pardo, you may now proceed.
Thank you. Just to explain a little bit about the meeting, this is really an informal opportunity for us to share information in a way that helps us get better information and craft our decisions. The way this meeting today is going to be handled is we're going to have a presentation. The first one will be on flooding. Then we'll open it up for any general comments that anyone may have, and then we'll go ahead and discuss our particular districts and some of the needs and issues that are happening in them. So if we could start with the flooding presentation, that would be great.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Armando Villaboy. I am in the External Affairs Office for the South Florida Water Management District. I cover Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties, but I just want to start with a little bit of a history on the South Florida Water Management District, why the district exists, and some of the history behind that. The South Florida Water Management District really came into existence in 1949 after the Central and Southern Flood Control System was started designed by the Army Corps of Engineers. The reason for that were 2 major storms that hit the state of Florida, one in 1926 and one in 1928. 1926 was the Great Miami Hurricane, which flooded a lot of parts of Miami-Dade County all the way up to what is now Lejeune for the most part. So there's significant standing water at those times. Then in 1928, over Lake we had another storm over Lake Okeechobee. That storm caused the lake to flood, and there were 1,500 deaths associated with that particular storm in that area. In the 1930s, following that storm, the Army Corps of Engineers took a look at the drainage system and started the first drainage projects in the 1930s. Those included locks, canals starting south, the Miami Canal, which runs from Lake Okeechobee into the south. All those projects started in the 1930s or thereafter. So the South Florida Water Management, as part of the Water Resources Act of 1972, was created along with 4 other water management districts. South Florida Water Management District is the largest. We cover 18,000 square miles of the state of Florida, from Orlando through to the Florida Keys. We have 9 governing board members. They're appointed by the governor, and they pick our executive director, who is currently Drew Bartlett. You'll see them here on the page on the right-hand side. They obviously chart our policy moving forward and manage the area district controls. Some are attorneys, come from all walks of life, ag, and appointed through the governor's office. These are the 5 water management districts in the state of Florida. You have ours is the largest in purple, and the 4 others. They're really watershed designed around their watersheds. We have more than 2,000, actually 2,200 now miles of canals, levees, and berms that we oversee in the state of Florida, again, from Orlando to the Florida Keys, 620 project culverts, 89 pump stations. And most of those pump stations are manned. The ones in Miami are not, but the ones upstate, the larger ones moving water into the Everglades and in Broward, are manned 24 hours a day during storms. We also have 3,500 hydrological monitoring stations and 201 rain gauges throughout the state. This diagram is the 3-tier system and the way it works. So we have a 3-tier. Tier 3 is typically managed by a city or other municipality. The Tier 2 canals are managed typically by the county, and the Tier 3 by the South Florida Water Management District. You see there it says primary canal. You'll see at the end of that canal pump station. So ideally, we want to drain this canal system down before a storm and draw all the areas adjacent to these canals down. That typically happens, before a storm, and then the structures themselves operate. Pump stations can run all the time. So pump stations will run during a storm, sometimes during normal rainstorm events. Gated structures, however, will open with a low tide and close for high tide. The reason being, we don't want salt water getting into a fresh water environment and affecting our freshwater wells. To prevent that, we close them during high tide. And if you're standing at a structure and you're looking at it, as the tide comes in, the structure starts to close. So we'll wait as long as we can, depending on how much water we have built up behind the structure, to close that structure, to provide conveyance throughout the storm if we can, or when the tide subsides. Again, the tertiary is typically managed by the cities, will drain to the county. There are pumps. Some municipalities have pumps. City of Miami has pumps that pump into the tertiary and also the secondary system. And then we take that and move it to tide. I want to talk a little bit about drawdown. When we draw down these canal systems in Miami-Dade County, we draw them down to a preset level. So if we say that we're drawing down a canal system, the gate does not have to be open. That canal may have met its trigger elevation, so it may not open. However, other canals may be higher or lower, so those may open. So it's not that they're not open, it's just met their elevations. We'll do this about 72 hours before a storm again. And what dictates how much water we move is forecast incoming rainfall. So if we're going to get 8 inches, we'll bring it down as low as possible. 4 inches, we'll adjust that table. But the idea is to draw down not just that canal, but adjacent areas to create room for the storm water to collect and move to the canal systems. We have some challenges to managing the system. Obviously, we try to go out every year in the dry season, and we don't try, we do go out every year and take a look at our berms, make sure our berms are functional, clear things off the sides of the canals to make sure that nothing falls into the system. One of the biggest issues we have are trees falling into the canals and causing an issue like you see here on the left-hand side, which is material blocking a structure or a bridge and causing upstream areas to flood out. Now we have 366 miles of canal in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County has another 254 that they manage. So we're constantly in communications with emergency management, public works, to make sure these are all managed and able to convey water during a storm. We work with all local governments to identify locations where we know that there are known issues and address them as possible through FEMA grants or other funding opportunities that we can apply for. Our resiliency office is currently looking at several locations, S27 in the city of Miami and other pump stations at grants to improve and add pumps to some of those locations. These are the pump stations and structures within the city of Miami. S25B is adjacent to the airport and moves water out of Blue Lagoon. That has pumps and is a gated structure as well. So when the gates close for high tide, those pumps continue to move water. So the gate may not be open, but we are moving water out of the canal system. S26 moves water out of C6 on the northern end of the airport. Also has pumps, and it also operates when those gates are closed. S25B, which is a gated structure on the Comfort Canal C5, that canal is owned by the city of Miami, but we manage the structure on it. And that structure is extremely low lying, and you can tell the difference. We have a real-time gauge on our website. You can look at it, and it's typically during high tide about 1.5 feet over the canal level. So you can really see the high tide impact that structure. S27 is the northern end. That's the Little River. That is a large gated structure. It moves 2,000 cubic feet of water per second, and that facilitates Little River. Now, the city of Miami does manage 5 pumps, 5 submersible pumps on C4 that move water into Blue Lagoon ultimately. That canal is also able to pump water backwards into a retention area on 152nd Avenue in Miami-Dade County. You'll see a berm out there on 8th Street. That is an 800-acre retention area that holds water coming out of C4. So we're able to turn on those pump stations and move that water into those retention areas to create conveyance in that canal system, as well as the forward pumps at 26 and 25B. And this map is busy, but I wanted just to show you where pump stations are. S27 would be your northern gate, and then you'll see S26 by the airport. That's a pump station. S25B, also by the airport, a pump station. And then you'll see S25 over on Comfort Canal. That's a gated structure. And you'll see another one, S25A, that I didn't mention, that is typically closed. That cuts off the Blue Lagoon from the Comfort Canal section of the city of Miami. And with that, that's my short presentation. I want to take questions. And thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to, first of all, thank my colleagues, Commissioner Gabella, you and your office for taking the leadership and setting all of this up, and Commissioner Reyes for your leadership and having these discussions as well. And I'd like to take a quick second and open it up for public comments. Anyone that has public comments on flooding? Okay. Then we can talk about our districts and the problems with flooding in our districts.
Commissioner, good morning. Zeri Ihekwaba, Deputy City Manager. The administration would like, at this point, to give you a short presentation that complements what Armando just presented in terms of the citywide stormwater master plan that the city had done over the years, which has informed some of the projects that are critical in order to accomplish what the city wants, resilient, sustainable infrastructure system in the city. And by the way, Armando, thank you so much. Just for general information, Armando has been very professional and timely and prompt in communicating with the city at every point and stage before a major storm event happens. Thank you, Armando, for your work that you do for us. At this point, I would like to invite the Director of Public Works and Resiliency, Mr. Juvenal Santana, to give us a quick presentation. Thanks.
Thank you again, Armando, and absolutely, please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Juvenal Santana, Director of Resilience and Public Works. Madam City Attorney, Mr. Deputy City Manager. Thank you for taking the time to allow us to have this meeting in this forum to discuss, flooding. I know it's a subject and kind of guiding the conversation as far as what we're doing as far as flooding is concerned. And here we have basically what we're doing, and we call it our stormwater management plan. So, what is it that we're doing and how do we get that done crosses many paths. From building infrastructure, whether it's privately funded or publicly funded, implementing local and large capital projects, the sea level rise and flood prevention, those large bond projects, maintaining what we currently have and what we're going to be putting in the ground into the future, how we keep track of that through our asset management software, and that's what we have that application. It's called Cartograph. How are we paying for this? In the form of a stormwater utility fee that's assessed to all commercial and residential properties, and looking at what we can do as far as improving what we're seeing out there in the recent path with perhaps implementing some new legislation that may help getting those things done. Here, just an image of one of the new pump stations that's planned, that's currently under the code of silence, and that's over in South Bay Shore Lane in your district, Commissioner. So, flooding, again, the topic of today, and during the summer, it's a recurring topic that I know keeps me awake at night. Here we have just a snapshot of some of the projects and some of the hotspots that we've identified, whether large or small, including some maintenance activities that we have ongoing that we've identified that we need to take care of so that we do have that relief when we have these large storm events. So just quickly, just highlighting a couple. In District 1, we've got a couple localized drainage projects and 2 large sea level rise and flood prevention projects that are listed there. In District 2, we're doing multiple things. We've got the Edgewater pump station where we've worked with a private developer to put in part of our required infrastructure as part of their project so that we don't come back and impact newly constructed areas. We've already coordinated that, we've permitted that, and those pipes are already going in the ground in Edgewater. Northeast 23rd Street, which is highlighted above, that's a unique situation. That road will need to be raised when we come in with our new pump station. And that project already have a consultant on board working on a design criteria package for a project that we hope to get into construction next year. In District 3, again, just some of the hot spots and what we're doing out there. In District 4, that we've done numerous local projects, and we have, again, 2 large sea level rise and flood prevention projects, just an image of what we're doing under there. We're increasing pipe sizes, putting additional structures so we can convey and get rid of that water. And then just to highlight, as far as on the right-hand side, that's a maintenance operation. We are actually, that's in near Margaret Pace Park. We saw that wells that were installed about 12 or 15 years ago really needed, besides our regular cleaning, they needed to be redeveloped. So there we have a drill rig. They're cleaning it out. It takes days upon days, and we get those wells working again like they did 15 years ago through that process. We're doing that with our onboard maintenance contractors, and it's the additional funding that we received last year has come in real handy on getting those things underway. Just a snapshot of some of the things that we also encounter is debris out, and we've got protection on that grate. That's why it's not getting into the drainage structure. That does reduce the ability to get water put into those pipes. So we are working with like the solid waste department, and we've identified areas that we have provided to them for them to take on with their street sweeping contractor. So, we have a lot of roadways in the city that are not only ours to maintain. We have Florida Department of Transportation, which is part of the state highway system that DOT is responsible for. There we have an image that we've seen throughout the last couple of years. And unfortunately, I fear that we'll see it again this summer just because of the staging of the work that's going on by the Department of Transportation. Some of the good news that we received is that one of their new outfalls will be online by the end of this year. So hopefully by rainy season 2025, that area will be much improved with the addition of a new pump station that will not be in the ground until 2028. Also on the county maintained roadways, those are also hotspots that we've conveyed to Miami-Dade County. One thing that we are looking at is because of our additional requirements in the city to clean our right-of-ways. Currently, the county has taken full jurisdiction on their roadways. So one of the things that we're looking towards is no longer performing street sweeping on their roads and making that their responsibility. They generate all the revenues on their streets. They should be responsible for doing that and allow us to reallocate that funding to what we need to do on our streets. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for these large sea level rise and flood prevention projects, we also have through our roadway infrastructure in our group, we have, again, just a group of projects, some of which are already completely funded. You'll see a couple asterisks up there on some of these projects that we'll continue to coordinate with your offices on these monthly meetings that we want to be able to have with you and your staff so that we can work through these and properly time to getting monies ready to be able to build some of these projects. But of this group, just about everything on this list is already funded and is going to be going into construction pretty soon. And you see some of these B numbers are 23. These are just fiscal year 23 projects that got in the books, and we have the money to put them in the ground. So now, talking about the large stormwater master plan recommended projects, there was a prioritization of projects that we sought to get funding. When the bond was put out in 2017, one of the main things that we were going to tackle was getting matching dollars for our projects. So all of these projects that have right now have at least a dollar for dollar match grant. If some of them are actually fully funded, and some like the Jose Marti Park has $18 million in grants and only $800,000 from the city's bond. So here's a snapshot of what the Alapata Flood Improvement Project, that's what our stormwater master plan, and once that project comes online, it's over $30 million project. Those heavy lines in blue, that's where flooding is being experienced today. And once that project comes online, that's what we expect to see on a 5-year level of service in the Alapata neighborhood, a significant difference. And not only are those roads going to get new pipes, but they're going to get new landscaping, they're going to get new pavement, they're going to get their sidewalk repaired, so those roads will be in a position that we won't have to come back to them, hopefully, for another half a century for significant capital improvements, and we can just maintain them and keep them dry. Other of note on those sea level rise and flood improvements, you'll see seawall repairs. We got grants to replace just about every street and seawall in the city. Those projects will also incorporate the bay walks and river walks wherever appropriate. So those projects are funded. We have consultants working on them already, and we will be building those seawalls and constructing those bay walks on those missing links along the, again, public right-of-way. We're not doing any work on private property. And then talked about the pump stations. We currently have 13 large pump stations throughout the city. We have pump stations in every district. Once we complete the projects that are currently in the books and funded, we will have an additional 7 pump stations. That is a significant increase. We have 13 and we're going to 20. So we're going to be over 50% larger in pumping capacity by the time that this is done versus where we are today. And also of note is that once those pump stations also come online, we have maintenance costs that go along with it that stormwater utility fee could use adjusting to cover. So what do we do this maintenance with? So we have, on the public works side, we have 21 portable pumps. You'll see a list coming up where we deploy them during rainy season. We basically have 12 resident portable pumps throughout the city. Some of them which are really there just in case of an emergency, and some which will be running every time it rains. So we've got 21 and we've got 12. So we have 3 from the fire rescue department in case we're in a pinch. They lend us their pumps as well. And we have 13 Vector trucks, many of which have been recently acquired with additional funds that were approved. We just received a brand new one in December, and that one is ready and online. So we now have 7 full-size newer Vector trucks, and we have 6 contracted Vector trucks that are working 5 to 6 days a week. And this is basically so you have an idea of where these temporary pumps, there's our famous Northeast 23rd Street. And again, we have one on Brickell Plaza. That one, last year at the end, once we completed the final connection to the Mary Brickell Village pump station, we went through the last rain event and did not have to turn it on. So that's right by the shul on 9th Street. And the the rabbi always lets us know when water's coming up, and it was good to not hear from him this time. So maintenance that we've been performing. So here's a total lineage and number of structures that we cleaned last calendar year. We cleaned over 500,000 linear feet of pipe, just short of that 518,000 feet, and almost 12,600 drainage structures. We are mandated by resolution to provide a weekly report through the manager's office for all the maintenance that we are performing. We'll see how that number has been looking, but that is the total number that was reported last year to you all. Besides that, the residents and everyone that has access in the public to put in service requests to our department when it comes to handling our drainage system, we did also complete over 1,700 service requests just for inlet cleanings. Currently, we have 55, and that's just almost like cyclical. We get the calls and we handle them. Right now, we are working 5 to 6 days a week between our staff and our contractors. So where this is all going is that prior to last year, our average was cleaning throughout the city anywhere, particular location, between 3 and 5 years. So right now we are making headway and getting to a 1 to 2 year cycle throughout the city. Some of the areas that need more attention, we'll get it every year, and otherwise we're looking at getting ourselves into a 2 year cycle by the end of this year. It's on my own personal evaluation, so if I don't get it done, I'm not going to get a good review from my boss. So here are some total numbers. This is how we have the city broken up in maintenance grids. You'll see in your report, and Commissioner will get this to you in a PDF so you can increase it in size. But this is how we have the city broken up last year, and you'll see that steady increase. Once more monies were made available, we had a significant increase from the summer onward. We had a dip in June and July. When it rains a lot, it hampers our ability to clean the system, so that's why you'll see a dip in the rainy season there. But once it started drying up, we made steady increases. You'll notice that we cleaned 57 grids last year. If you see 2019, 2020, 21, 22, if we total that up, we're under the 57. So our goal is to get through 2022 by the end of the year, and we will be at that 2 year maintenance cycle. If you ask how that's been done, we did hire more staff, both on the operation side. We've gotten more equipment, and we brought on additional contractors to help us with this effort. And we are basically running on overtime every day of the week, except we let our folks rest on Sundays, just like Chick-fil-A. And then how are we keeping track of this? This is Cartograph, our asset management software. So all our inspectors are required to update that information through their dashboard. So they're taking before and after pictures. We have every drainage structure GIS located, and we keep record of who was there, when they were there, why they were there, and then letting know exactly what actions were taken. If we need to provide a report, we gladly do that at the end of the work being completed. So segueing into the stormwater utility fee, just for a little background, back in 1998, under Chapter 18, Article 8, the stormwater utility fee was established. It is still that rate today. It's $3.50 per month per single family residence. Right now, we're kind of in the middle of the pack statewide at 67. We are the lowest in Miami-Dade County. We're lower than Miami-Dade County, then Key Biscayne, then Coral Gables. So we've just looked at that, and we have looked at perhaps considering a modest increase of about 50 cents per month. That's $6 a year, which would go a long way. It comes out to over $2 million of additional monies being made available so that we can keep up with this increased demand that we're facing today and we're going to be facing for the future. Leading into legislation, and one of the things that we have found is that this isn't just a public right-of-way issue. There are private property issues that, when not properly maintained or handled, impact the city's public right-of-way. And here's what we've seen during our ability to go out to the field and and inspect locations, we found multiple areas that have been discharging water that's being backed up on their property onto their public right-of-way, whether on an emergency basis, like the image on the right-hand corner with someone's pumping their parking area, or on the left-hand corner, you see a PVC pipe, real small, sticking out, and they're just draining every time it rains. That water's coming into our streets. The right-hand corner, that is Mary Brickell Village. So we all saw the news about the flooding in Mary Brickell Village. When we came out there, we realized that none of the wells for either block in Mary Brickell Village were working, and all of their water was discharging onto the sidewalks and into our streets. So with the cooperation of Code Compliance, we brought them into compliance. They had all of their 9 wells recertified last year, so we do not expect that to be the case again and again. At the end of last year, once that work was completed and we had a heavy rainfall, we did not experience flooding again in Mary Brickell Village in the same way. So how do we do that from a proactive standpoint? One of the things that we'd like to have a discussion again is as far as perhaps having a compliance system for commercial properties to certify that their stormwater systems are actually working, perhaps on a 10-year recurring basis. Again, from our personal experience and seeing how our wells that we're responsible for behave after 10 years, it behoove us to make sure that that water that property owners are responsible by the city code to maintain on their site is actually happening. So, I'm not going to read here all of this. And thank you for bearing with me. So, just additional actions. I mentioned the vectors that have been added on. We did receive, again, another grant, not a sea level rise, but again, a maintenance and us bettering our ability to keep track of our infrastructure. We will be putting a SCADA, which is a supervisory control and data system and telemetry, so that we know what's happening at all our pump stations remotely at any given time. So we've already evaluated our pump stations. We have the funding, so we're moving that. So if yours truly is at the Emergency Operations Center during a hurricane, I can remotely know exactly what's happening at our pump stations, how much water we're pushing, and if there's any issues, we can immediately notify that before we get that call from that resident that water is coming up to their steps. So thank you. I'm here for any questions and appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Juvenal. Well, I'm giving the honor because I'm the oldest one.
Most experienced.
No, I can speak with, because I've been here 6 years, and I've been working since day one in that issue, and Juvenal knows it, that we have, the first thing that we did when we first got elected, we met with Juvenal, and the rotation that they had before was a rotation that the vacuum pumps they were every 4 years or 5 years, right?
Anywhere between 3 to 5.
Anywhere between 3 and 5. And then we tried very hard to lower it because by experience, I can tell you that I kind of named the streets that every time that it rained, it was totally flooded. And after we went there with the vacuum pumps and some little adjustments were made to the drainages, now there is no more flooding over there. So instead of asking for a major and very costly a project, I'm talking about 16 terrace. You see, you remember that we clean it up. We are now we don't get that complaints. I cannot say. Well, we had every time that it rained, we had tons of calls. Now they have been diminishing and diminishing and diminishing. And they have been diminishing because now we have the cycle of drainage cleaning has been improved, which is very important. Also, it's very important on our part, to go around the district and really trying to find out those drainages that they are clogged, you see. And once we identified it, immediately we reported it, and I have to thank the Juvenal and his department. Immediately they will come and clean it. Also, we identified the areas that they were always, every time it rained, they had ponding and they had flooding. And we little by little, we started developing the drainage project, and we have, how many drainage projects have done, Juvenal, for my district?
It's probably been over 20 projects.
Over 20 projects that we have done, but that's because we have been on top of it. You see, we have been on top of it. We have been proactive. You see, we are not reactive. We have been proactive. Every time we find one, we try to find the funds. If there is not in Miami, we go to Tallahassee. You see, but we try to find the funds in order to do it. And now we have, and I will have to thank Juvenal and Zurich, because every time that I have called them and I said, listen, we have a problem here, they have always tried to fix it. And now I can, after 6 years, the flooding problem in my district has diminished tremendously, you see. And now we are working in an area that it's not only one street, it's various streets in the northwest side of 30 of Flagler and 38 Court. It's 38 Court, right?
That's the East Flagami.
The East Flagami. And we analyzed, because the problem, those streets, basically they became rivers. And working with the state, getting funds from the state, from grants that it was written, and all the funds that we have being able to put together. And there is a big project that, when will that start?
When will it start?
That's right.
It'll start next year.
Next year, we're gonna, I mean, it's a huge project. It's gonna take about a couple of years, right? To
Yes,
finish,
sir.
because it is a big tract of land that we are going to direct all the water, because we don't have any place to place the water. Blue Lagoon, it is, I mean, when it rains and all the water that is going there, it cannot accept any more storm water. So the only solution that we found was deep water injection. You see, pump the water under the water table, and already we identified the place that we can buy we are in the process of buying the land in order to build that pump station, and it is almost a $50 million project, but we worked very hard with the help of the administration, and we worked very hard in order to get that. What I'm trying to say is that we have to be proactive. We have to be alert. Also, one thing that we did is, and when Juvenal was showing those drainages that they are clogged, you see, many people, we have to educate our residents. That is not a dumpster. That is not a place to dump anything. You see, you cannot dump oil or anything there. Or not, and there was this I would say that regularly the people that they were working on they are gardeners, that they go in and they do your garden, and they cut all the grass and all the leaves and all that. They blow it into the drainages. Well, I sponsor an ordinance that is prohibited, and they will be fined if they do it, because it is necessary to maintain those drainage clean. You see, and that is something that I don't know. It hasn't been enforced, because I've seen people doing it, but we got to enforce that. We have to enforce it. This is not a simple problem. It is a problem that has many little pieces that we have to tackle them one at a time. And I'm glad that you guys called for this meeting, and because I know that your districts, you suffer from a lot of flooding. And Juvenal, you were talking about that we need legislation. God, I will love for you to work with the city attorney, draft the legislation that is needed in order to help with flooding. And I'm pretty sure we all three are going to sponsor them.
That would be wonderful, sir.
Yes, sir. I know that we will sponsor them. I know it. Okay, so just go right ahead. And once again, I thank you, and I thank the administration, and you guys. I'm real glad that you are being so proactive, and let's all work together. And anything that you need from me or my office, I'm there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Gabella?
Yeah, no, I have the same, so I'm starting out, I have the same problems in my area big time when we were walking last year for the campaign. Flooding all over the place. I mean, I don't know if last year was a record year for rain, right?
That's neglect.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a record, but, it was quite a lot. And throughout the district, Alapata, Flagami, Greenland, we had big problems. I mean, big problems. And then when the campaign finished that I was elected, I started asking the questions because there was a lot of misconceptions out there, Manolo, and I had spoken to you about the flooding issue and so forth. And one of the misconceptions was that first it was that a couple of our pumps were not working, one in Parque Macio. Then we learned that wasn't the case, that those pumps were working, because if they were not, I wanted to have them fixed. But then when we found out the pumps were working, then the next question was the pumps pump out into Blue Lagoon, right? And then the question became whether the water management people were opening the valves or closing the valves. So then I spoke to the gentleman earlier today, and I just wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth, if you will, what's going on. And the gentleman tells me that really it's not their problem. Because and he explained it to you. I got it the way it works, right? So then it's a question, like Manolo says, and that's why we're here to be proactive. And I agree. If there's any legislation that we can help, I'm part with you, Manolo, and with Commissioner Pardo to help along, because we have a main problem here that if we don't address it, we're going to have a bigger issue. Okay, and so I'm going to go around I'm going to go around and identify the drainages that are clogged, which there's a lot of them. A lot of the residents tell me that they haven't seen, the vacuum truck that you guys use to clean the
Yes,
drainages. That they haven't seen them in quite a long time. So I figured I put it in the in the record here that maybe we need to send some of those to my area. But at the same time, I think we need to work on a permanent solution, okay, which might require legislation, okay, that I am willing to do whatever I have to do with you commissioners to get the problem resolved. I remember walking through, I think it was 47th Ave and Northwest 4th Street, and the manhole cover was floating about 2 inches on top of the water from the not being able to handle the capacity. That's how bad it was in that area. You had about 12 inches to 14 inches of water on top of the street. Alapata, 28th Street, and 18th Ave, that was a big one there, 10 minutes, and it's like this.
Yes.
In my house on the corner South River Drive and 17th Ave, where now I'm living again.
You're going back home.
But glad to be back home. My wife is too. We have 3 water intakes, if you will, or French, I don't know what you call them, but I'm all constantly with a blow dryer trying to clean that out, and you'll see me out there, my wife and I raking and trying to get it out, so the water comes in. So one of the things that I was going to ask you, who went on the question of the trucks that have these vacuum things that you clean out.
Yeah, the vacuum trucks. The vacuum trucks.
I mean, is this something that we need to address? That you need more funding? I mean,
So
in my area, what they tell me is that they haven't seen them, like I said. And can you?
So the map that I'm sharing right now, and it's included in your presentation, shows you those maintenance grid areas that we have broken up to the city, and per our operating permit with the Department of Environmental Protection, with DEP, we're a stormwater utility, so we have to report to them what areas of the city we are handling. So these are the records that we provide to them, and this is what we've done. So there are some areas in your district. So that area near like Blue Lagoon, we've already been there this year. You also have some areas in your district that we will be in this year, which is 2021. Like I mentioned, that those areas there that are in orange, those are on schedule to be done this year. And so is the teal. So you've got some areas in your district that we will be covering, but we haven't been anywhere any longer than 2019. Some of those areas are in your district. You see the west end snip there. That is that we haven't cleaned the entire maintenance grid. That doesn't mean that we haven't had vectors out there, because I could tell you that we have pump stations in that area, and we keep our system abutting as clean as possible.
Yeah, I know you have one pump station on 21st Ave and 20-something Street, because that was a big one. That you have a permanent temporary pump station. 21st Avenue and 26th, 27th Street, somewhere in there. Because I went through that area a couple of times when I was walking, and every time it rained, you had to.
Oh, we did have, a portable pump out there? Yes, absolutely, sir. Yes. That is one of our seasonal residents during rainy season. That pump will be out there.
And in that one is because why? It's a question of that we got to go in there and we got to tear up the plumbing underneath.
Some of those areas will need large capital projects. That particular area, I think, is included in one of your large projects.
It was somewhere here. I saw it.
Yeah.
You had it somewhere in your presentation.
I'm not sure in which. So there are, let me see if I find the grid. Stormwater master plan. But that area does have a temporary pump, and I think it is included.
There it is, 32nd Street. That's it, 32nd Street and 21st Ave.
Okay.
Right there, number one.
Yep, number one. So that area is part of one of your sea level rise and flood prevention projects that we are going to be tackling. So for the time being, that pump will be out there to alleviate it. And yes, to answer your question, that is one of those projects that we need to go in and tear up those roads.
And I got one more question. Frank was telling me, my chief of staff, Frank Antonio, that a while back there was there was something that we closed off. Frank, can you?
My apologies. Mr. Castaneda, can you, any comments on the microphone, please?
Well, the commissioner is referring to the roadie truck was accused of polluting the Miami River by dumping oil into it, and that the DOT had closed off the connection.
You guys have sealed it off or something?
So that's an outfall is on Northwest 36th Street. There have been issues with all those commercial and industrial sites having dumping out there. We've worked with the Florida Department of Transportation. The reason that weir was installed was for hydraulic reasons, to control water on one side to get rid of it. That area, since we've been working on it for over a decade, the Florida Department of Transportation has designed a new project for 36th Street, and it is going into construction. We are currently working with them because they're going to be doing improvements on the side streets, specifically in the area like 23rd Avenue, 24th Avenue off of 36. So they're going to be doing improvements on our side and connecting it to their system so that they can pick up some of that water that's coming off 36 and get rid of it. So we have, like I said, collaborated with another agency. They have designed it. They're going into construction, and it's fully funded. So that project will go into construction this year. So we should see significant area. I know there was an auto dealer that had issues with the flooding.
23rd Avenue. Zimmerman, I think, is the auto dealer.
So that entire segment there that we would see a lot of flooding, that the water would kick up, is getting a brand new system by DOT.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think in our case, I saw that in 2023, most of District 2 was maintained through drainage. So a lot of our issues seem to be on development and what happens after development with some of the streets. And I don't know if it's the grading, but I can read to you kind of the ones that have been reported. Some of these perennially, several commissioners have been in this seat, and they've been kind of hot buttons.
If they've been around for a while, hopefully I've heard of them, so I should be able to give you an answer. If you want to tell me, I could tell you that one of the areas that was a recent construction, and that's Paraíso. So Paraíso,
Northeast 26?
yeah, so what happened with Paraíso is that they built a subterranean parking area, and they did it with the understanding, and we have it documented by their engineer of record, that if they did not install the seawalls, the flood panels, they were going to flood. And that's exactly what happens. So the panels do not go up, water comes into their area, and they do flood. We have it under the building permit, and I don't want to get into too much, but we had looked into it. Our drainage system did need some modifications. We went out there because of the contours of that area. We had a lot of water that was being picked up on the high side and was basically bubbling up on the low side. So we basically separated the system, and the improvements as it pertains to the right-of-way were significantly better after we did that. However, we still have found them pumping their water into our street. We've looked at the grading. Our water from our right-of-way does not reach the point where it will go into their property. And again, they built that with the understanding, the developer did. Now it's the HOA. They weren't party to that, but when the building permit, it was known that that would happen, and that's why they're required to put in their flood panels. So we've seen that, and we've seen also with development like in Marybrook Village, projects go in, it's been 15 years, they don't maintain their wells, the water's got nowhere to go but onto either our right-of-way or into neighboring properties. But if you have a list, either if you want, we can get into the details here, or we can convey that and look at it and provide you a response on.
Yeah, I just want to read it into the record, but in the Marybrook Village case, that was solved. Northeast 26th Street, it's a very big problem for everyone on that street from Biscayne all the way to the Bay. So what is the solution for that when the developer didn't?
So in that area, and I want to make sure, because Northeast 23rd Street, which is part of the Edgewater flooding, that area does flood heavily. It's very low lying, and that's the road that will need to be raised. So I know we're talking about 23 versus 26. I just want to make sure that.
Right, it's 26.
So 26, again, as far as the road flooding, we have not gotten that as a repeated issue of the right-of-way, that the buildings have flooded and it's caused issues to their elevators, to their lobbies, to their stairwells. We've seen it. We have not found the evidence until that's been caused by the right-of-way. Again, we did find that some of the water was coming up from the high to the low-lying area. We've adjusted that, but that should not be caused by the stormwater runoff from the public right-of-way.
I mean, I'm happy to share, the pictures.
Of course.
But it's a very big problem for everyone living in that area. So that would be.
Happy to look into it and
Thank you.
Get a response.
And I'll just read into the record the other addresses, just so that
Commissioner, if I may, Mr. Director, the project on Northeast 23rd Street,
Yes.
the Edgewater project, I believe, also has provision for a new pump station.
It does.
So I suspect, unless you may want to check the entire basin, there might be possible interconnection between 26th and 23rd in order to see if improvement on the proposed pump station will address any concern that we might have.
That would be fantastic.
Gladly to.
If that's the case, that would be great. And I'll just read these into the record just so that we have them, because these have been around, some of these have been around, and I saw that some of these are already addressed in your presentation. But so that we have it, I'll read it in. 4170 Ingram, 2520 Lincoln Avenue, 2910 Lucaya Street, 2495 South Bayshore Drive, 2547 St. Gaudens Road, 3072 Shipping Avenue, 3130 Jackson Avenue, 3553 Palmetto Avenue, 2950 Bridgepoint Avenue, 1601 Nicote Drive, 3111 Virginia Street, 3080 Shipping Avenue. And I know along Morningside Park, there's an issue through Morningside and around the park, which, that's come up a few times. For the neighborhood association on the Baywalk around 20th, that whole continuity and the seawall, that's a big issue. I thought I would bring that up. And you mentioned the issue with the swales, and the swales not being maintained either by residents or by commercial businesses. Is there a way that the city can address that so that we can deal with flooding?
So on, just skipping back to 20th Street, so there's a new development that's coming on the Bayside and 20th Street. They will be required to do stormwater improvements fronting their entire site, and they will also be required to replace the seawall abutting that project. So once they come in for a permit, like I mentioned, as far as improvements, that was number one on my list as far as getting private development to do their part. That will be addressed at that time, but we are aware that that's an area that has issues. With responsibility of the abutting property owners to maintain their swales, it's basically as per, I believe it's in chapter 22 of the city code under solid waste. It basically says that any abutting tenant or property owner is responsible from their property line to the edge of pavement to maintain. You'll see it sometimes that you'll see the tenants of commercial properties. I see it on East Street all the time, that they're sweeping their frontages, and they do it in the mornings more so that they have nice clean frontages for the tourists coming in later in the day. As far as what we do, it's a matter of if we find trouble spots, we address it through code compliance. And at the same time, if there's areas that we need to just keep a constant eye on, we are augmenting that responsibility with street sweeping by the solid waste contract.
Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to interject something. We have a problem which is not only on your district, in every single district, that homeowners, they have paved the swales. And that creates a water runoff instead of the water being seepage into the, the water doesn't have any place to go, and that creates ponding more than floating. We have to do something about it because they do it without any permit or anything because it's not allowed, you see. And I just want to bring that up because when you mentioned swell, immediately came to my my mind those homeowners that they pay. Some of them believe that they own that. This is, I bought this house and that you cannot even park there because I don't want you to park there because that's mine. You see, there is a lack of information on our part that we should let them know that and take action in some of the owners that they go and they either sometimes there is concrete and sometimes it is asphalt, but the front of the house and the swales, they are totally there's no grass or dirt there for the water to go into the ground.
So, Commissioner, as you know, we have a policy where the frontage in the swale is not allowed to be made impervious more than 60% of that frontage. Mm-hmm. And we recapture that swale. So as we're going to be coming in, we're hopefully working with your office with the CDBG money. Those areas that we find that have that condition will have swales restored. We tilly up the soil so that soil again becomes pervious. And I know we've talked about the trees, and trees are put in. And those trees also help mitigate that because they live off that water. So we recapture some soil, some green area, and then put in some landscaping that also helps us get rid of some water when we get a break of a couple of days during rainy days. In the summer.
Can I add something to that? You see, since day one when I first got here, I've been against parking reduction and then construction. See, because what happens is that as we reduce the parking requirement, people have to park someplace. And they go and they park on the swales and in the neighborhood. What they do instead of having a place to, they don't have a place to park. Either we like it or not, Miami is an automobile-oriented city. Unless we build, I will be more than glad. That will ecstatic if we start building a decent mass transit system, which we don't have. And we have to realize that we cannot force people to use bicycles because if you want to go to downtown from here, to work in downtown, riding a bike, even if it is an electric bike, you're going to have to take a shower there when you get to downtown. The weather is not. If you get there alive, you see, because people drive here the way they want. But that has been my total opposition of parking reduction because we have destroyed the swells. We have destroyed the swells. And there are some swells that they are being used, the grass is not more there, I have it in my district, and they are like concrete. The water will run instead, when it's raining, it runs instead of going into the ground. You see? That is something that I wanted to bring up because that is also a cause for some flooding in some areas. Okay?
The only other thing for me too was along the seawalls where there's private property in between developments, how do we develop those seawalls and create the baywalk in that area east of Biscayne Boulevard around 20th Street, moving up from, 5th to 20th and extending the baywalk?
So,
May I?
of course.
Okay, Commissioner, the city has a policy of a continuous baywalk and riverwalk in the city. Most developers are required to put those up because it's on private property. So it comes with an easement. Each time you come in for a building permit, you are required and obligated to construct them. There are certain locations in the city that's almost impractical as of today to place those seawalls because there are existing improvements there. So what we always look forward to is once there is a redevelopment plan submitted to the city, the policy kicks in. We've developed a master plan working together with the DDA of locations missing all the baywalks along the bay. And we're always looking forward to getting the property owners to come into play in terms of compliance.
Thank you.
So, before you leave, Julian, what I wanted to ask you, two things. So you already answered the 23rd. That's being addressed. 32nd and 21st, what you talked about, where you have the permanent temporary pump. Is that something that's underway that, or you're still studying, or will that be something that's going to be done soon? 32nd and 21st.
That's one of the larger projects. That's a project that's identified funding, and we're going to be moving forward. That is that's a project that'll probably be going into the ground in, I'd probably say 3 years.
When?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Yep.
That's when you're going to get started, or when you're going to?
It'll be under construction, and that hasn't been designed.
Okay.
And then it'll have to go through getting a contractor on board. But
Right, and just 47th Ave, that's a big one there, on approximately 47th, 40th Ave, and Northwest 6th, 5th Street, 4th Street, where I told you about the famous manhole that was floating on top of the
47th.
47th, 48th, approximately,
Okay, on the north side of Flagler.
on the north side of Flagler. Yeah.
Okay, so
Very on the north side of Flagler, almost getting to 7th Street, Northwest.
all right, I will look at that area and let you know what we have, and maybe when we continue our conversations about your projects, figure out what we may need to do there.
All right, and I wanted to ask you on the grid system here that you have, right? So the purple is, if you can move it, yeah, there. So the purple was what was done on the purple in my area was done in 2019, which
Yes,
is
and we started already in 2023. You see that one in the middle, which is that area that you just mentioned,
Right.
was cleaned last year. So you may have been getting complaints last rainy season. We took care of it last year. We'll see how it behaves. But in the meantime, we'll still look at what existing infrastructure we have. So that one, and then we're going to be spreading. So that entire area that's in hot pink, that is all scheduled to be done this year.
the yellow, right?
The hot pink across. So you'll have 55, 56, 57, 125, 6, and 61.
Okay.
Those are all were last done in 2019. Those will all be done this year.
Okay, so usually by the time you do the whole city, what is it, a cycle, like 5 years that you start over again?
So our cycle up through last year, we were at a 3 to 5 year cycle. We're still at that, but those are much reduced. Our goal at the end of this calendar year is to be at a 2-year cycle.
A 2-year cycle?
Yes, sir.
So however, if somebody calls 311 or our office addresses, or sees where there's a problem, that there's a dirty drainage, right, if you will, or clog. I've seen them clog too with dirt.
We'll take care of it immediately, sir.
You'll take care of it?
Yes, sir.
and
We do not
you
wait.
do the grid, but you also go out where there's a problem and identify it, and you know.
Yes, as our maintenance operation crew knows, I don't want to see late service requests on our 301 reports. We're on the clock once it's entered, and I want to make sure that we get them done over time. That is why we are working 5 to 6 days a week, because we've got not only the grids, but we have the service requests, and I think the number was over 1,700 service requests besides the grid work was done last year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
One last question, and it is that although it's not my district, I get calls about Brickell. You see,
About?
Brickell.
Brickell Avenue? Or like the
Brickell
Brickell
Avenue.
area?
Yes.
Okay.
And because every time it rains or we have King Tide, there is always flooding on Brickell Avenue. And as I do understand, there is a couple of pumps there. They are not sufficient, the capacity is not sufficient. Are they working or not? That's the questions that they place to me, you see. I mean, some people call and ask me about it, and you're going to get a lot of calls, Mr. Pardos.
I get them. But I think a lot of that was Mary Brickell Village.
Yeah, so I'll tell you just a little hit, because again, as we...
But I just wanted to place that on the record. But people know, since we're here talking about flooding, it is one of the most important, and I mean, that is documented every time that it rains. When you are watching TV, the area that is shown is always is Brickell.
Yeah. And South Bay Shore and that whole area.
Yeah,
That's right.
and respectfully, I have to answer to those TV reports and come up with
Yes.
an answer on what's happening out there. So, Mary Brickell Village, we saw on Southwest First Avenue all those abandoned vehicles. We talked about what was happening out there. Two things. One is we saw the water flowing out of Mary Brickell Village. That pipe that I showed was the Publix system, which is right on First Avenue that was discharging. That should no longer be the case. As well as the city built the conveyance system that's connected to the Mary Brickell Village drainage pump station. That work, the last connection was done last year. There was also additional money approved last year from the Miami Forever bond, because we've also identified other issues that didn't need to necessarily be part of a large project, but we have smaller structures out there. We have steep changes of grades where we do not have enough drainage structures, without boring you too much, capturing that water, and the water just rushes towards those low points. So we're going to go in there and improve what we already have out there, but we now have the east side of First Avenue, where Mary Brickell Village is, connected to the pump station that's on the west side of the rail. And again, we still station a temporary pump out there, but last year, once we took care of what appears to be a lot of water coming from private property and us connecting to that pump station, we are hopeful that during large rain events that are not of superior intensity and short duration, that we will no longer have a problem. We hear about it immediately from the media to those that are locally impacted, like I mentioned, the rabbi and the shul. So we were very happy to see that we didn't get that complaint in that rain in November and December.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Parks and Chris Evans.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Let me get situated here. Fun times. Fun times. What's up, we got? Good afternoon, commissioners. Good afternoon, Madam City Attorney, Deputy City Manager, Clerk. Chris Evans, Director of the Parks and Recreation Department. Thank you for the opportunity. I think when we talk about general discussion of parks, I think a great place to start is our park system master plan. I know we went through a 1.5 year long process that Commissioner Reyes was a part of as well, but I know we, with our new commissioners, give you an opportunity to kind of review the 30,000-foot level of our presentation. Definitely here to answer any questions. I have my colleagues here as well if we're going to go into capital improvements as well. So to get started, just a brief overview of our Parks Department. We have 151 park sites within our jurisdiction. Our mission is to enrich and inspire the community by delivering a world-class park system that's safe, accessible, and facilitates a happy and healthy quality of life. We do so with our 9 divisions listed here as well. I wanted to point out that we do manage a therapeutic recreation and inclusion division, which has been hosting programs for those with disabilities for 50 years. We're very proud of them, as well as we have a cultural arts center in Little Haiti. The purpose of the master plan was to assess the existing conditions of our park system, our programs we offer, our services, our staffing, and our funding levels, identify our parks and recreation trends, needs, and priorities, and then also to provide a strategic and resilient recommendations for the improvement of our facilities, our services, our parkland acquisition, and our development. And part of this master plan was to meet the requirements for our accreditation. We were blessed enough this past summer to be accredited by the national organization. We're one of about 10% of the parks departments in the country are accredited. And just for knowledge, we've been reaccredited now, and the Broward system has just been accredited for the first time. So we're proud of that and proud of the opportunity we get to continue to do what we do. The master plan was to be in alignment with many of the other strategic plans that are throughout the city and have been developed and are currently in development. I know we mentioned this morning about our stormwater master plan, and a lot of our facets of our master plan are aligned with that mission as well. We had a deep engagement process when it came to developing our master plan. It was, like I said, it was about 1.5 years of comments from the public. We met with each of the commission district offices. We've had several meetings virtual and online to address a lot of our top needs and get those on record. We had over 30,000 responses to our questions and our surveys and our engagement pieces. So we have a statistically valid, view of how to improve our department. Just wanted to pick out a couple of things from the master plan. I've delivered the master plan document to all of your offices. It's roughly about 250 pages. I won't be going through every element, but I wanted to highlight key aspects of it. One was the acreage level of service analysis that was completed. Essentially, the level of service analysis counts how many acres of park spaces available per 1,000 residents in the city, and then also compares it to the local and national trends of parkland acquisition. So the key takeaway of these graph here is that our acreage and level of service is well below our peer cities in Atlanta, Indianapolis, New Orleans, San Diego, all of which have at least double the parkland per resident as Miami. So we have to address that once we try to grow for the next 10 years. The level of service analysis also showed us, with our goal, the mayor has a goal of having a quality park within 10-minute walk of all of our residents within the city. As you can see, the darker areas are those where parks are concentrated, and the white areas is what we're calling park deserts. So the residents in those areas shaded in white, they must drive or walk extended periods or take public transportation just to enjoy a City of Miami park. So what we're trying to do is make sure that everything we do and we're planning, we try to address this. The plan also did a thorough analysis of all of our park sites. As you can see there, green essentially is a great score, park evaluation score, which takes into consideration the acreage and space available, the park amenities, the condition of those amenities, how easy it is to get them through public transportation or otherwise, and then also just the condition, how aged are the amenities that are at the park sites. As you'll see, we do have some green there, that's great, but we have a lot of park sites that are in fair and some that are in poor condition. Some of those sites are to be developed into parks. We have additional programs and capital projects that are underway in many of those locations in red, or we're planning for them within the next 2 or 3 years. We have roughly $300 million of capital needs. We keep a capital needs spreadsheet that we have through all of our parks that kind of identifies all the top line needs, those that were identified by our residents, those that's been identified by the district as well. So we keep that on file as well, and that totals up to $300 million of capital needs, and we don't have, at the moment, the ability to do all of them concurrently. The key takeaways from the summary findings from the neighbors and from our residents here in the city is that our high priority items is to increase our natural areas and our nature parks, increase restrooms at our parks and the quality of restrooms, and of course, increasing the amount of parks that we have in our system. The high priority programs, just the top level, is increasing our adult fitness and wellness opportunities, our community special events and movies in the parks, and then our high priority actions is develop parks for unorganized free play, and then development of walking and biking facilities. Top level of concerns that were identified by the residents was community safety, crime and violence, access to jobs, health care, quality food. And then we believe as a Parks Department, we have a role to play in addressing all our community concerns. And then our spending priorities were aligned to developing new parks and facilities in existing parks, of course, improve the maintenance and the overall appearance of our existing parks and recreation facilities, as well as development of walking paths, new indoor recreation centers, and acquiring parkland. So I say all that to say is that we took the master plan and we divided the priorities and our principles into roughly 4 different initiatives. And I'll go through them, as quickly. I know we're pressed for time, but to renew the park system, to connect, to grow, and to innovate. When we're speaking essentially of renewing our park system, is through upgrading our parks, our recreation facilities and amenities, expediting the implementation of the capital improvements, and then conducting improved ongoing maintenance to provide for quality experiences. One of the items that we've already begun since the master plan was adopted in July was new signage throughout our Parks Department. You will all notice, throughout your parks, and as we continue to do new projects, we're going to be updating the park signage there to be more concurrent. If you go now, there's many different signs. Some of them are not in the same alignment of message or of appearance. So our goal, throughout this calendar year is to change all the parks signs that we have. And then, of course, when we have new park projects, to align new signage with those parks. When our renew principle, renewing our program services and administrating offerings there. And then when we talk through connecting our park system through improving our physical, our system of developing pedestrian walkways, mobility near parks, and then multimodal transit access to the parks. Improving our program and services. Our key areas to enhance awareness of our programs and services. One of the key takeaways from the master plan is sometimes our residents don't know all that we're offering. So we're going to continue to do a better job of using our marketing, working with our communications department, and working through our other departments to improve the awareness of our programs, improve the awareness of art that we have in our park system, and strengthen and expanding our partnerships so we can expand our service delivery. To grow the park system, we've identified, of course, we need to expand our park land, our access to nature and water. Going back to the map that I showed you before, where we identified park deserts, we also identified locations to where we can kind of close that gap. We have different strategies for closing the gap. One of them is through acquiring new properties as well. We would love to work through with your offices to acquire new parkland as feasible. And then also to build parks and to build high quality parks in those areas. And then we also may have an opportunity with some of the schools. The schools have some areas that are being unused, and in many of your districts, I know you all are aware, we have meetings set up with the school district as well to continue to have those conversations to potentially develop partnerships with the school, so we can use those. So after the school day is done or during the weekends, those spaces could become available through partnerships. So there's a map there. We're also, when we're speaking of growing park land, we have some unique opportunities to expand through collaboration. I mentioned one with the school system. One would be essentially some of the unused grass areas and swales throughout the city. Just an example I wanted to show is the interchange, I believe that's 27th off of the 836. We have a concept there to improve the areas that are used as swales, to develop them to bring on the water, but also have park site amenities at those as well. So we could potentially have skate parks, which are a need, sports fields space, also dog parks, and just open grass areas for seniors and for those who want to walk the park and have a safe place to walk, throughout the day. So that's one concept. Another concept is through garage spaces. We've noticed through the onset of the pandemic Many jobs have gone remote, so there are opportunities for those unused garages throughout the county. We've got a need for pickleball. I'm sure all of your offices get those calls about, increasing opportunities for racket sports. We have an opportunity there with Miami-Dade College. This is a rendering of the facility on 27th Avenue, I believe, in 8th. The garage is unused, and we could potentially go into a partnership with them to develop into pickleball courts or basketball courts on the rooftop there to give them more access to space. We do, in the ending of our master plan, we do have a vision proposal for many different amenities throughout the city to reach the level of standard through our national organization of where parkside amenities should be, tennis courts, basketball courts, aquatic centers and the like. We've identified the different areas to be able to meet that level of service, and we have that map inside the master plan that we have as well. To wrap up, we are looking to grow the park system as well as one of our key initiatives to develop new program areas based on the community needs and trends of your districts and expand offerings and advocacy for nature programs, health, and wellness. As we mentioned, innovation, it ties into integrating technological improvements. One of those is through Wi-Fi in our parks. We have a goal of having wireless internet in all of our parks. So we're working with that with our information technology department. So we're underway in that project. But also when we mentioned the key areas that the residents identified as areas of opportunity, community safety and resiliency. I know we spoke a bit about that when we were talking through with our public works, but also making sure we design parks that are more resilient. Through community safety, just wanted to show you a little proposal as well as we go to master plan a lot of our different parks. We want to make sure that we take into consideration the community safety. This is Roberto Clemente, and as we master plan for improvements to that park, we have to make sure that we take in consideration safe walking area and then integrate lighting from the neighborhood into the park to make it more of a welcoming opportunity. I know there are parks in areas that are dark, so we're going to have to work with our different agencies to improve that. As well, one thing we've started already, we've noticed that community safety has been a big issue. We've reorganized our park ranger division. So we have park rangers set at some of our sites that see the most, I'll call it unauthorized activity. So within Duarte Park, within Morningside Park, and within Robert King High Park, we do have park rangers there as much as we can as possible, working directly with human services to address some of the homelessness concerns, and then also more on-site, supervision to make sure the rules are being followed and that there's a safe environment. Speaking of resiliency, we have another presentation if you wanted to talk through that, but also just designing our parks to accept the water. We understand that climate change impacts how we run our programs, so we're making sure as we develop parks, this is Jose Marti Park for an example, that we have a strategy of resiliency through all of our programs. So to wrap up, there is an integrated vision. This is the same map I showed you before with all of the new programs. And then speaking of actions, working with our fellow departments to address all of our needs. There is outlined in the master plan, step-by-step, 150 steps and key performance indicators, policies, and actions that we're going to be taking, and some of which we've already started to just improve the impact we have in the community. So there's that. There is, through the master plan, we're supposed to provide 2 times a year a thorough update to the commission. So we are looking to get that on the schedule for this year and the end of the year, and then we can provide updates on where we are with programs and capital projects in all of your divisions, and then also where we are with the initiative that we've outlined in our master plan. So the entire master plan, for those that are watching, is available for download on our park site. It has, like I said, it's 250 pages of data there, and we're always welcome for any feedback. So I have our contact information there as well. So I have my colleagues here if you want to talk about specific projects or initiatives, but I'm definitely welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I thought we'd take a minute and open it up for public comments, if there's anyone that wants to comment on parks.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. I'm all in favor. I love a lot of the plans that you showed, exciting the parks. There was a park, I recently went to Henderson Park. I'm sure this is all getting resolved. I actually spoke to some of them, but they told me for a year and a half, a part of the tube that the kids go through was burned in a fire. I don't know how it started, but for a year and a half, that's been out of commission. I took some video and pictures, and inside the tube, there's curse words, there's a lot of bad symbols, and I saw a kid sneak into the tube because although both ends are shut down by plywood, there's a way to enter, and any technological system where maybe the residents can update or let staff or administration know so that it's resolved as soon as possible. It's, horrible to think that a kid could be writing bad things, or an adult would be, and then a kid reads it. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. They did tell me, park staff said that it's finally going to get fixed, but I think a year and a half is a long time, if that's true. But I just wanted to bring that up to all the commissioners, and to the point of 151 parks. If there's a way, maybe the residents should do it too, obviously. But if the commissioners can visit 3 parks a week and just keep an eye out and kind of do a check and balance on park, and to make sure that it's being kept up for the kids and for the residents. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Just for an update on Henderson Park, that is a park location we've identified for a new playground, Henderson Park. So we're waiting for the final sign-offs on that, and I know it is definitely tough. We try to address some things, but I believe that playground is outdated. Yeah. We haven't been able to change a lot of the apparatuses, but as soon as we get an updated plan, we're going to make sure we communicate that what's going to be happening and when.
Amazing.
So for sure.
All right. Thank you.
For sure. And to that as well, on master planning, we do plan on meeting with the community. We're going to have strategic locations without the city. We'll make sure we advertise in advance, so just to have those conversations with the staff that are here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I wanted to mention a few quick items. First of all, Morningside Park, a park that many of us are very familiar with. You may be aware that it has a palm garden that has been there since 1953. It's part of the original design of the park. The city is not famous for maintaining things. So I and a few others stepped forward to volunteer to look after that palm garden. We've had a tremendous amount of success. We're now up to, from 123 up to 200 palms that we've added that we've planted. We have individuals of 200 different palms in the garden, and we've added 126 different species. I personally give educational tours completely free of charge to the public. Anybody that wants a free educational tour of the Morningside Park Palm Garden, please see me. And yet, the city wants to get rid of it. They want to completely get rid of that palm garden. It's a wonderful aesthetic beauty, a wonderful educational facility, and yet the city wants to get rid of it. I would ask you to please don't let that happen. I also want to mention that it would be great if the city placed a greater emphasis on public enjoyment of its parks. There was a slide a little while ago about a resilience plan for the shoreline of Jose Marti Park. That resilience plan, putting plants along the public shoreline there, that's little more than ornamental environmentalism at the expense of public enjoyment of the waterfront. So I would recommend that not be allowed to happen that way. You should place a greater value on the public enjoying it. Lastly, one last item?
Do you have much more? Is it 2 minutes?
30 seconds. Lastly, Commissioner, you may be aware there's some soccer players that have been playing soccer regularly at Morningside Park for at least 30 or 40 years. It's not organized. It's pickup soccer. People just show up and play. Anybody can play. And yet they've now been told they have to have a permit, which would cost $100 for every Saturday morning. I don't believe that's right. I don't believe that they should have to pay that. I'm not even sure that they should, based on what I've read in the city's own handbook.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Cruz, if you could just state your name for the record.
Elvis Cruz, you need my address?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for making this sunshine meeting. I think we need a little bit more of this space to really collaborate. I might need a little bit more than 2 minutes as well. I'm coming as a resident, but also as a recent appointee up to the Climate Resilience Committee that has really been studying this in terms of emergency management. I've also been training with the fire department, and I've been an emergency responder. So I've been in these situations in the community, with the community, to understand some of the obstacles that we're facing. I've been trying to work with groups like in the Parks Department. I just went just Saturday to plant some trees in North Point with a Rotary Club, and none of those trees were documented. The trees that we are planting are not being followed up on. We don't know where they're at. I'd like to propose a way to collaborate, maybe through an open data system. For example, the master plan for the parks. Instead of downloading it and making it a static file, why don't we have a Google Earth that's interactive, where we can click and we can comment, and we say, you know what? This is what Commissioner Gabella proposes. This is what Commissioner Pardo proposes. This is what the Frost Science Museum proposes. This is what FIU proposes. This is what Parks and the pumps stations are going to be proposed. It's not easy for us to even have a conversation in an intelligible way and refer to something without having to flip, through pages or ask a staff member to handle something. This geospatial digital twin for Miami, knowing what we're proposing, where and what's happening, could be the single source of truth for us to coordinate. Master planning, for example, with our swales, and I know I'm going to be going up just a little bit longer. Master planning, for example, I want to just address the commissioner's points here before, for example, Commissioner Gabella, the floating storm drain cover. There's a proposal that's currently for smart covers, where we are able to add sensors to these areas where the covers are, and then we can have data points to know, you know what? This is where we need to put that flood pump, or this is where we need to put that flood pump, or hey, FIU, where I happen to be at the Institute of Environment, what do you think? Where should we put these next 17 pumps? Oh, and by the way, parks are a huge opportunity for being able to do flood mitigation, in terms of that. So that's a little bit. FIU and the Kampong, by the way, a beautiful park. I was just there yesterday. They're offering to be able to put a pump station there, right? So we can take some of these septic tanks.
Thank you.
off. All right, so I'll just wrap up there. I'd love to, I guess, maybe post public comment.
Thank you. The meeting is kind of running long, so if you could.
Yeah, to keep it short, I guess maybe propose another way or another format for us to have these conversations.
We are.
Okay.
We are.
Thank you so much.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Sir, if I could just have your name for the record.
His name's Silvio Pupo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the old one. I have a couple of complaints and observations also. As you all know, we've been building parks and parks and parks and parks. And we build, but the problem is we don't have maintenance. You see, I'm going to bring just a case in point. We had a beautiful park, which is Shenandoah, that we're all proud of it with everything that was built there. All the landscape that was planted there now is non-existent. It is, I want to ask you if it is because of proper training or it is because the people that come and work in those parks that they are working in maintenance, they don't take the initiative of saying they should have the initiative and they should give them the authority of saying, listen, we have to replace all these plants that they are dying, or if they see that in a sprinkle, it is broken, to fix it. You see? As I said before, it's being proactive. Okay? We have that problem. And that is a huge problem that we have in all our parks. In other areas, for example, they don't come and they mow the grass and they don't upkeep it until they are very high, and the plants that they're planted in some places, they shouldn't be there. You see, they shouldn't be there because they grow to a size that it shouldn't be growing, or that they die too fast. But we have to be a bit more careful with it, because that beautiful park, and I'm talking about every single park that we are investing money in, right? Well, we have to keep it up. We have to keep them. See, if not, 10 years from now, it will be a disaster, as had happened to most of our parks that now that we are making an effort on trying to revitalize them, to making them more beautiful, or we are building them. Right now, we are building Fairlawn. You see, the Eat Hand is going to have landscape, and that landscape, Bay of Pigs, for example. Bay of Pigs is a park that all the residents and all the Cubans are very, very proud of it, because what it represents and the improvement that we did to it. You see, all the little flowers that were planted that has a meaning, they die, and unless we reach out, they're not replaced. They're not upkept. You see, that is a problem that we have. Same thing with the circles. Nobody takes care of them. And I'm asking that you make an effort that the people that are that working in the parks, the people that are working in maintenance or landscaping and all of that, or they're going to go cut the grass, whatever it is, that they be more proactive, that they take those parks as is where his backyard or his lawn, okay, or his landscape, because we're here to serve the people and make those parks beautiful. And then the residents feel proud, and you know very well, and all those parks that we have made, every time that you go by them, you have people that they really enjoy and very, very, they love the park and they're very proud of the parks. And that's why we build them, and that's why we redo it, you see. And another thing that I want to ask is that whenever we're going to do a park and all of that, trying to cut the red tape, and that's with the administration, because we have a lot of red tape, and it takes forever. You see, we have this park that we have the funds and everything to start, all the drawings and all the things like that, and we've been about 2 years, right? And on West End, about 2 years and 2.5 years. And still we don't have a definite date that we can break ground on it. And that is in an area and a park that needs to be redone like we are doing. Use a no pool, a no splash pool, and all of that. That's going to be beautiful. And it is very, very important for the community. You see, the parks are the heart of the community. Parks are the heart of the community. That's why we have to make an honest effort of maintaining them, you see, improving them, and offering all the kind of activities that activate them that the people in the community can enjoy. And that is my complaint, and I want you, please, make sure that every single park, I'm not talking about my district, this is global. This is for everybody. We are all in the city of Miami, although you are in District 4. What happened in District 1, in District 2, District 3 or District 5 affect us because we represent the city of Miami. Our title says City of Miami Commissioner. It doesn't say District 4, District 1 or not. City of Miami Commissioner. So we don't have to, what I'm saying is that all of this that I have said on maintenance of our park and improving them and the parks, you should take care of for the whole city of Miami, for all the parks. Okay? But remember, it's a waste of time and resources if we build and we let them deteriorate. See, it's a waste of time. And it is a disservice to our residents and the taxpayers. Okay?
Absolutely. I hear you loud and clear.
Commissioner Gabella?
Well, since we're on the subject of complaints, I've got a couple of complaints. But no, a couple of things. I agree with everything that our Commissioner Manolo Reyes said. In District 1, I've got a couple of questions for you, but one of them is if I can, and I don't know if I can do this or not, but if I can direct you to Duarte Park. And I was just... So we were talking in our office and we're discussing how can we improve Duarte Park. I think we have some funds for parks and, recreation. And so I pass there, almost every day, and I see that the fences are either need to be repainted again or done new, whatever. But then the question came up. I started thinking, and you tell me how you make the judgment of when a park needs a fence all the way around and when the park can be open, okay? Right. And maybe be open that we can put some barrier where cars can't go in, right, because we don't want that. But on 17th Ave and 28th Street, Park of Duarte Park, is this something that you guys can study and maybe we can talk about it and see if maybe before spending money and say, paint the fence or change the fence, maybe we can talk about a strategy. Would it be good, or would the pros and cons of opening up the park, shall we say?
Absolutely. This was a point that came up a lot during our master plan meeting. It was a divisive topic because I can see right now, being in Duarte Park, there were some mothers there with their younger children. And I know sometimes some of the areas without fences have homeless issues. And sometimes we're recommended by our police department to make sure that, we have fences in these parks and we can actually close off access to them. I think it's more of a community conversation. Since I've been in the department about 4 years, we've had multiple conversations about some of these areas, and a lot of them is just based on history and what the residents has demanded. Some of them have demanded that we've had, 8-foot high fences. I think we're going away from that direction. I know we've talked about it at Viereck Park and making sure maybe just a light kind of fence, a 4-foot fence that's well maintained. But it's essentially a community. Some people want it, be completely open, but for sure.
But I got another one for you.
Yes, sir.
The park rangers, right? And we talked about this. Remember the other day that I think we talked about this, of giving them more power, more certifications, if you will, so they can actually be a little bit more proactive in the parks rather than just open and close the park. And I think we talked about that.
Yes, sir.
If we can put that on fast track, I think it would be good. And you were also talking about the public service aides, that maybe we can do something with them along those lines. And
yes, sir.
I don't know how the other commissioners feel about that, but
Yeah. Agree.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. The park rangers shouldn't be there. They go by when they're going to close it and all of that. They should be more proactive. They see somebody, they see some activities, because I had parks that we clean it up. Like Bay of Pigs. It was a drug den. I mean, the people were dealing in that area, and you have parks there. And you mentioned Duarte. I'm sorry for getting it.
No,
that park needs to be revamped.
I agree.
Have been neglected for a long time. It's about time that we start working. All of us. You guys start working and start a project to revamp that park. That's a beautiful park, and it has a lot of potential. You see, and there are. You have a community there that will enjoy that we do it, and we'll redo that park the way that it should be redone.
I agree. And the other thing I was going to ask you, and this has to do with something that's going to come in front of us, Commissioner, in your area, Commissioner Pardo. And what I wanted to ask you, first, related but unrelated. When a property in the city of Miami goes from let's say commercial, and then it's turned into a park, okay, and now it's designated as a park officially, even though there might not be a park there, but that's what it's going to be someday, right? If nothing happens with that property, can that property be reverted back to what it was before C commercial, or any other designation other than park, or when it gets to park, is that it?
So, if I may come in, once a property has been acquired by the city, it needs to be rezoned if it's going to be a public space or a park to a CS or CI. It is at the will of the city and the city commission. If that property is to be disposed of, there's no need anymore for it as a park, I believe before disposal, it has to be reverted back to a previous zoning designation. Again, it's at the will of the city commission whether we want to dispose it off as a CS, which I don't think is necessary. I don't see a private developer developing a park unless there is a community need.
The reason I'm asking this question, and the reason I'm asking this question, and full disclosure, I met with David Sentner yesterday, and I'm talking about that park, that property, okay, and my reason for that is because I learned that park was designated as a park. It was commercial before, to give a credit for what was going on in my neck of the woods in the Beckham Stadium deal, is what I believe what he told me. And so that's why I asked the question.
So, Commissioner, if I provide fuller clarification, before a parkland is disposed of, whether as an original parkland or something that was recently done as a rezoning, we still need to maintain the no net loss policy.
Absolutely.
Still need to maintain the no net loss policy.
That's what I was saying. You see, and in that deal with the Mud reason, you see, they make a mockery of not that loss. They did. They did. And some people accepted it and voted for it, and I declared that it was legal and all of that. It was a mockery what they did for not that loss. You see, we didn't even ask land that we should have been taken from them. You see, and now we passed legislation that is going to make it more stringent. And now any park, once it's designated parkland, if it is going to change its use, have to be replaced by the same amount of land
Okay.
or parks.
That's correct, Commissioner. You're absolutely correct.
So the reasoning, because I'm trying to make up my mind when this comes in front of us, okay, without violating any sunshine law, right? And so I'm trying to ascertain what can be done and what can be done. My question is, if the Sentinels don't do this, okay, do we have plans for that park other than what is being talked about now? And I imagine not, since they, no. Okay.
Well, I can say on behalf of the Omni CRA, there would be a definite desire to invest heavily to make, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's, and the second question is, and this is a question where I just learned, because I'm asking the questions, I like to ask questions so I can be informed and so I can make the best possible decision for our residents, right? And the second question is, let me ask you a question, because I asked them, I'm asking the questions, okay, what's your lease? We don't have one. Okay, what do you got? Well, what we got is an operating license, which can be revoked at any time for any cause by us on a forthwith vote. And if I was on the other side and I'd be a guy investing, $10 million, $15 million, I would not take that deal, any day of the year, because at any point the commission can change, anything can change. We're in politics, and in 5 minutes things go like this, and then all of a sudden he's got the forfeit vote. It's gone. The deal, the money that they invested, that's it. They lost it. So, I was curious, and I asked them. But then that led me to the other question that I'm going to ask you. How is it, if he doesn't have a lease, okay, and there's no contract per se, who applies for the actual permit of that building and what's going to go on there? Are we going to do it on his behalf? Because, I come to you, as a property owner, remember I put up a fence on one of my properties like 15 or 18 years ago. I came for the permit for the fence, right? And on the permit, somebody has to be authorized, right? I either have a lease and I don't own the land, but I have, I'm leasing, so or I'm the property owner, right? So how would that exactly work out when he has no lease? There is no, how can you enlighten me on that, City Attorney?
Normally, those are done as co-applicants between the department and the person, the contractor. So that's normally how the building permits are done and the approvals are done, because the city it's our park.
Right, but who would be applying for the actual permits? Because whether I have a contractor or I'm going to do the work myself, in this case I have a contractor, right? The contractor has to have my authorization, so then he can go in front of you and ask for the permits and everything proper. So in this case, the contractor, whoever it is, are we the ones that actually apply on his behalf?
No.
Yeah.
We cannot do
They
that.
have-
How does he go in front of you if it's him without having a lease or without having any? That to me, what I saw is not a contract, but it's a contract, but it's not tangible because there is no. You know what I mean?
Right. So normally, and Ace is around here, I think, and he can state or Jose can state what the building documents look like. But normally, contractors come in with the approval of the owner. In this case, it's the city, and there's sign-offs by usually Dream as approvals in order to come in and do the work that they're supposed to be doing. So that's normally how it works. It's a permission. The city gives permissions to.
So that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Madam City Attorney. Has this been done before this way? Is my question. Has something like the instrument that they have, okay, if they succeed, have we ever done something like that instrument that they have?
Revocable license agreements, yes.
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 In the fashion.
With a 4/5?
With a 4/5, yes, I believe we have one other one.
Can you let us know if in fact there is one?
May I, you see, I know a little history about the city of Miami because I've been close to it for a long time. Even I was in the I remember about 30 years ago, so we did the same thing with Badia. And we took it away because it was not properly managed. Okay, you have a reason to take that away, you take it away. And we are in a process of building a new facility that will be one of those senior centers. But it was done, that I remember.
Was that a no bid?
Yes.
It was a no bid.
It was a no bid. Okay? That was a no bid. And I agree with you. I mean, I want everybody to go through the process, a bidding process, and all of that. You see? And that is, if you have finished, I forgot to mention one thing that I want to mention. You mentioned about using the school lots, you see, for parks and all. Well, we tried. I mean, good luck with it, because we've been trying to get into a MOU with the school system since we built that swimming pool, which is a competition swimming pool. It is an Olympic size. And I know there's going to be competition there. They're going to need a lot of parking in order to avoid the parking in front of the neighbors. We asked, we would enter into conversation, let's say, with the school system in allowing us to use Shenandoah School, the parking, when they were not using it. And we had in the weekends that we had competition and we need parking. And they came back and say, well, they cannot even initiate that if we don't agree to give them the parking, allowing them to park in the Marine Stadium, you see. And I don't have an authority to do that, you see. But I mean, good luck with it. And I really hope that they come around and understand that we all have to work together, because if they're not using the parking spaces, then we have to, I think that we could use it. Same thing in West End. In West End, they use our fields. And I used to be a member of the school system. I used to teach and I work in the administration too. They use the art fields for the phys ed class and for their children, and during breaks, they go and they play and they use the facility. I requested the same thing. The parking lot that you have, you see, allow us to use it when we have activities, because I activate that park a lot. We have movie nights. We have, now we do a fair, aesthetic fair, you see. We do a lot in that park, but no answer whatsoever. And they claim that they have to use a parking of Marine Stadium. So it's for Mass Academy.
Yeah, and on that note, I wanted to say one more thing. And I'm not asking these questions to torpedo the project or, one way or the other. That's not what I'm doing, but I'm just curious so I can make an informed decision. That the gentleman came, to talk to us. He's very nice. I think in his heart, he's trying to do, he really does want to give back to the city. I think he's got a good heart, and I think there's nothing there. It's just the way this went about, the questions to be asked, and at the end of the day, I'd like to hear, because this is in your district, it's mostly going to affect you.
Well, I mean, our position on that is anything with a no bid doesn't really tell us the value that we had to begin with. So the deal from the very beginning is a problem.
I agree.
I mean, that's how we look at it. Then it's great that we have private citizens that want to invest. And there are a lot of good reasons, good tax advantages to take and build equipment and help a park come up and do that and create a dome and a space. But the issue is also for us this. Let's say you have a 10-year lease and you do, right? Who gets this at the end of 10 years and who maintains it? I mean, we're talking about having issues maintaining the existing parks we have. So we're entering something that we know it didn't start right, and we don't even know how it's going to end, but we have this special license that has not been seen often or is kind of rare.
So revocable license agreements only benefit the city. So it's obviously if we do not want the license to continue, we revoke it.
That's right.
So
Right.
it is only beneficial to the city, and that's why it was drafted.
But it's at a high standard of a 4/5 vote.
I mean, 4/5, I know lately it's been a high standard, but it's a 4/5 vote for procurement, for no bid. It's not a high standard, per se, right? But with that said, it only benefits the city. It is a use of the park space. It's a facility that normally the city doesn't have $10 million lying around to build. So that was what was the vision at the time. If that's not the vision of the commission now, then it gets reviewed.
Well, I mean, my question is what happens at the end of 10 years? I mean, who has to maintain this and what plan is there for that?
That would be us. That would be the Parks and Recreation Department. We have to look at the total plans. I know as of now, we're looking to have an office in the development for our park ranger headquarters. So they would have, would be standing there for security purposes, but it would revert
And do you
back.
know how much it would cost to maintain at that point?
No, not yet. I would have to look at the design plan.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing. It's got a lot of air conditioning. That's going to be a heavy bill at the end of the month. And I think your question, Commissioner Pardo, is that let's say at the end of 10 years or 5 years, because in this case we don't know because there is no lease, there is no contract. So really, I mean, in my view, I want to do this deal. But I mean, if I was on the other side, but the point is, what happens in 10 years? He builds a structure, and then all of a sudden, they say, we can't do this anymore. They run out of money, whatever the case may be, the trust, whatever. And they run out of money, and then it's for us to maintain. Can we maintain it? Do we want to maintain it? Is it feasible? I mean, these are all questions that, I don't know.
But if it's going to, anybody that has a lease from us, if it's going to build and structure, it has to come and ask for permission.
Oh, yeah. No.
I mean, because
So I'm saying after it's there.
the lease specify what is the use of that land, what is the use of the land, and you cannot go on your own and start using it the way that you think it is going to be more profitable to you. And when we got, I mean, if we are going to have a park, a park bid, if we're going to bid, I mean, bring the park to parkland to public bid. Well, we have to take into consideration that whoever is the bid has to specify that any use that other than park has to comply with the not net loss. Have to comply because that ordinance was passed to protect the park inventory in our city. That has been violated, yes, and I was the first one I'm the first and only one that was arguing against that project. But we have to be careful when we take an action, and we said, okay, we're going to bid this out. Well, bid it out have to retain the use of park, okay? And what are they going to do with it? Because whoever has that contract, they cannot be building in that park without a permission.
Yeah, but my point wasn't that they're going to change the use of it. We know what it's going to be. It's a park. My question was what happens in 10 years? The structure is there. Never mind that it's going to be used for something else, but we got to maintain it. And the structure's there, and it's a big
But structure, to build a structure, they need a permit.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they're taken away from the park.
No.
You see, that piece.
Yeah, I'm just saying the maintenance bill. If in 10 years' time, let's say, are we prepared to assume that maintenance bill? When we, these are questions that I'm asking. I mean, there's a lot of pros with what they're proposing, and then there's a lot of questions also. The way it was brought about, to be honest with you, and the no bid thing that bothers me for one. But I think in their hearts they want to do something good. The renderings, are pretty. And I asked the questions: Are the other kids going to be able to use the kids in the neighborhood and the families? Are they going to be able to use that park? Okay,
That's very important.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Yeah, for us, it's very important. And the answer was yes. We're going to have from 7 in the morning to 3 p.m. 2/3 of the time is going to be us, But the rest of the time, 7 and after 3, before then and after 3, it's, it's open to the public. And 2/3 of the time from 7 to 3, we only have 2/3 and the rest, and I ask, can they walk in there? This is what I've been told from that standpoint. What worried me, the underprivileged kids that wanted to use the park, and, it's a public park at the end of the day, that's what we're saying. So that's been answered. It's just that I even said to them, if I was you guys, I would be worried about this contract with, no date, not a lease, whatever, but they're happy with it, and so forth. But that was just this. These are the questions that I have, and I'll leave it at that.
I did want to add something to the record. The licensee is responsible for the maintenance during their use, for the interior and the exterior. As far as long-term planning, one of our goals in our department is to have maintenance plans for each of our facilities and each of the future facilities, so we can identify that cost and add that to our budget ask each year. So we're starting that process in this year. Of course, we're talking about park rangers. We have 24 park rangers for 140-something, inland parks. So we're kind of stretched in, but we'll definitely, I know that's a priority for park security, so we'll make sure we continue to add that. And we're working with the police department with our second phase of training. And then after the training, we'll work with code compliance and the police department to be able to give them enforcement powers.
So a couple of things that in my district seem to come up a lot. One of them with the parks is engagement and the engagement of the local community. And the other one is the way maintenance is chosen. So sometimes something will be replaced that the community didn't want replaced, but it just kind of happens. So I know people have brought up the engagement, and I did want to mention Vyrick Park because we're doing something different with Vyrick Park for us, and it's working really well. We started by having a meeting with the activists, the people we all know because they're always calling our offices. So we bring all of them to the table and we try to get from them, what is it exactly that you want done in this park, right? After we get that and we get some sense of consensus, we take 2 or 3 options that they're debating and we go to bigger forums, different community groups, HOAs, whatever, as many as we can do within that area. When we're done with that, we're trying to geofence the area and text the same way we do during our campaigns with the final options for the park. That way we get 3 different kinds of feedback and it allows us to make the best, decision, the most inclusive decision. And I really like the idea of bringing other ways of engaging people in this day and age because it's so difficult to get people to engage and give their opinions and for us to make our best decision.
Can I give you some advice? I'm a little older than you guys. Community input is extremely necessary. I mean, I love community input, but it gets to a point sometimes that they are factions, that they are. I mean, there are people that they don't want nothing to happen, and then they are always they place a roadblock, and you, as once you get the opinion of the majority, you see, you have to put your foot down and start the project because if not, it wouldn't not start it. That happened to me in Shenandoah. Right. There was a huge argument before I got there. It was almost 2 years of meetings back and forth, and until I made a decision. This is the way it's going to be done because I got the majority of the residents. This is the way that it's going to be done. And the pool is going to be this size and it's going to be placed here because they were arguing all the time where the pool is going to be located. You see, some people wanted it behind the house. Some people wanted it away from it. And it's just an advice. You have to show your leadership once in a while and say, no. I mean, enough is enough. This project has to take place. And the majority of the people wanted it this way, and this way it's what we're going to build it.
I'm glad to report that we have been doing that, and it's working. People are following, and it seems to be very smooth. That's why I wanted to share it, because it's working really well.
Good.
But the part where it's not working really well, which we hear about all the time by phone, by email, by people showing up, is Bayfront Park Trust. And the biggest complaint that we get is the lack of engagement. It's not that they didn't, it's not that they didn't like the dogs and the cats, but it's $900,000, and maybe we could have spent that differently. It's not that they don't want gym equipment. It's the fact that nobody asked them or where to put it. So they don't want to, they don't want to live with that. It's not, well, a good one is the whole issue with the outdoor advertising. We have the state of Florida that says our maximum is 950 square feet and the maximum height is 65 feet. The state is very clear. If you do an on-premise sign, you don't fall under these limits. What is an on-premise sign? They're pretty clear. An on-premise sign, and I'll use Pam as an example, an on-premise sign is a sign on Pam that says Pam.
That's right.
And maybe the art and maybe, but just to finish this thought, if there is revenue being earned, that's not exempt from the state. If there are enough other products that aren't substantiated through the principal line of business, that's also not exempt. So those are illegal signs.
I agree with you.
That we're dealing with, and that should never, be the case.
I agree with you, and at that size, it has to be PAM, and the only thing that cannot advertise is what they sell in the stores. Otherwise, if they have an exhibition of Van Gogh, whoever there is, that's the only thing that I can.
Right. But for example, what motivation would you have to sell something outside and they, they're not supposed to earn money.
The state is very clear on that.
Yeah, so it really puts us in a very difficult position. There are others. Look at the neighborhood. The DNA is opposed. The BNA is opposed. The Frost Science Museum is opposed. The DDA, the people I've spoken with, aren't in favor. Yeah, I mean it's kind of across the board. I haven't heard one resident actually come to our office or send a comment that says we support a sign in the park that's not affiliated with somebody that's making money.
Well, if you look at the records, my vote was a no.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. This is an issue, and I know that we all represent the city.
That's right.
But in District 2, this is a huge issue, and it's impacting me, my office, and everybody in it. So we're constantly hearing this, and we're constantly trying to explain, not just to the community, but others that have interest, why these are so, 1,800 square feet in a site, that's bigger than my house.
Absolutely.
100 feet high. These are huge structures.
That's right. It's a small building.
And it's not that they don't want gym equipment. Of course, everybody would want gym equipment, but it's like, we already go to a gym in downtown. Who said we needed gym equipment in downtown? We already take care of that. We don't need gym equipment here, but nobody ever asked. And that's what creates.
Yes, it's quite a difference because in all my parks, I have gym equipment. But it is because the residents, you see, most of them are single family homes or duplexes and all of that. They come and they use it. They have a walking path. All of the parks that allows it, even the park which is small, Bay of Pigs, I have a walkway that has stations with gym equipment on it, and I believe in it. Shenandoah, they have gym equipment, and you just go by Douglas. Go by Douglas. There are people, a lot of people. There is some. Sometimes we have classes. I mean, we have 3 or 4 people that they have a trainer that is teaching them how to do it. I don't know if they're charging them or not, but I know they are. He is the one that is teaching them. So there are places that it really could go, and places. The main reason there is a process. See, my main argument is process. I'm a process guy, and I want everybody to follow the same process that I follow. You see, process that I follow, and I think that we should all follow it because that gives us a lot of. I think we are transparent, and when you use a process, and people know that there is a process. There's transparency on it.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
And that's what I
also wanted to thank the city. I wanted to thank Hector and Chris and everybody that's come out to Virick Park and that you're all helping us because that's what we want to do. We want to be the engine that helps give you the feedback so that you guys can make the better decision. And I'm very much enjoying that partnership and working. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you. And before we leave, I want to ask Hector, this is something that I want to bring up, and you know that I have heard it. When we have a project, case in point, Padilla, there are so many roadblocks in that city. So many roadblocks that what it does, it delays the project. Projects that could be beneficial for the community. It is delayed by all the roadblocks that we have. You see, you have to go through so many red tape. And I've been proposing for a long time, since I've been here, that we cut those, try to minimize those roadblocks, because one thing that I don't understand, our projects that we have the plans, we approve the plans. We give the plans to everybody that has to review. Those plans are already reviewed, and then when we going to assign it to, the person that is going to develop it, whoever is going to work on it, that person has to go through the process again, review the plans and all of that in order to get a permit, a building permit. I think that is absurd.
Now that you're speaking of this, if I may, before we I'm glad you touched on that, Manolo. I would like to see the building department, the permitting system revamped. And I get a lot of complaints, through the week that everybody's scared of City of Miami, because it takes forever to do anything. Okay, and my question is, maybe we should have a think tank or ourselves another sunshine meeting on this topic alone of how do we get that done, that we bring ourselves the permitting system into the 20th century that we're in, compared to Miami-Dade County, to other municipalities. I think we're behind. I think in my area, here's the thing. I was walking and, Gabriela, I got this violation, but what the problem is? I tried to do it right, but when I tried to do it right, I go down there, nobody, they revert me from one department to the other. We don't know how to navigate the system, and therefore what happens? And the legality goes up. Something is constructed without permits, then we have a problem to take care of that problem.
Commissioners, I'm just going to pause for a second, because this is on another topic that wasn't included in the special meeting, but this is incredibly important, what both of you have brought up, and I think it's our next topic for.
Sure, absolutely.
I wasn't talking about the building department only. All the other areas. For example, you're going to do a project, and then you have to go through. You have to go through. We have to bid it out first, and that takes long. Then we have to select the builder, the contractor. Then we have to go through all the process again, and it takes a lot of time. And you're gonna be frustrated. You too. You're gonna be frustrated the way that I am. Why one haven't started this project? Why?
So, Commissioner, if I may, I know the general topic for today is stormwater and general parks. So, to that extent, in order to kind of frame your question and the response therefrom, we are currently doing a process improvement for some of these public purpose projects, and by extension, private development, right? So to the extent that we frame it around stormwater projects as well as park projects, some of the process improvements requires us to create a special program for city and public purpose projects, and also to expedite them within the framework. We do have an individual here that the city manager recently engaged, Shireen Floyd, who is very good in process improvement. She used to be here, went to the county, we brought her back. So we're working through the process. So just to respond with specificity in terms of somewhat and
I want to add that I congratulate Ace and thank Ace and Hector and all of you guys because you are trying to do your best and you're proactive also. And the time that time frame on premise have been totally, have been decreased a lot. And I want to congratulate you guys. In my opinion, you're doing a great job. Mr. Park Director, please pay strong attention to maintenance. Maintenance is real important, because if we build a nice park and it is a nice facility that people are going to come and enjoy it, you see, we have to maintain it. And that means from the grounds up. Okay?
So I just want to say, this is, I don't mean to bring a negative light on any director or anybody. I just want to talk about that issue, and I'm talking about the public in general of the permitting system and everybody in general, that I think that we need to revamp it, and that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything to your departments or belittling your departments. I just want to put out there, people, I think it's time that we get with it, and that's all.
So, Commissioner, just like we, in the spirit of collaboration, the administration would like to acknowledge the collaborative input, as well as some of the support and great ideas that are coming from your staff. District 4 Chief of Staff has been very consistent in maintaining standards and continuity of conversation in terms of how to move the projects forward. And I want to recognize his sterling quality in doing that. And to the extent of that, I know you guys have been new, District 1 and District 2. We've received a fair amount of collaboration and understanding from your staff as well. We want to commend you and wish that we continue in that spirit moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay, I think that concludes our meeting.
And then for the record, the Sunshine meeting for February 1st, 2024 concluded at 2:01 p.m.